Good morning, guys. Yeah, hello, Jess. She's patiently waiting for the action to start, and she wants to help. So here we are. Today's the day I'm going to take all this apart. I've got to get the steering column out, and to do that I've got to take the barrel off, which is going to involve drilling the bolts out. I also need to take the bulkhead out. Going to get the front wings off. Going to get all this out. So I've got a naked, bare bulkhead, and then find somewhere to put it all. So the wings are going to have to come off as well. I've also got to get the bonnet off. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about that, but I'll manage it somehow. Yeah, I think what I'll do is take this wing off first, and then I'll have access, and I can sort of lift the bonnet off without damaging the wings. I'm worried about sort of dropping the bonnet on the wings, really, to be honest. So there we go. Something I have noticed, which is a bit strange. As I say, remember, bearing in mind, I bought this vehicle brand new, and it's never been in a garage since, other than for service. Look at the bulkhead. Look at where this spot welded. Look at all these plug welds, the big welds. I don't know here. It's almost like you'd expect something, you know, a restoration job or something that's been poorly done. It's really strange. Look, it's really, really strange. So yeah, all the way along, and then down this side as well. So if you've seen others like this, please let me know, or if yours is like it, because this must be from the factory. It must be. So yeah, if I took this apart and I hadn't bought it new, I'd think this had been repaired, but no. Anyway. Okay, so one issue I do know about with these Defenders, no matter what age they are. I re-chassied a 1984 many years ago. I've probably mentioned it before. I put a 2.8 Isuzu in it. It was bloody brilliant. One of the big issues is getting the bulkhead back. I think that's why a lot of companies just take the body off in one piece and they don't have any issues with alignment. But getting the bulkhead to go back in exactly the same position is a nightmare. So with that one, because the trouble is, if you've got the bulkhead like this, okay, then you might get a perfect door gap down the front, but the door will be on an angle and you won't get a lovely gap at the back. And then you could have it too far forward, too far back. You could have it like this. It's got to be put back exactly where it was, as long as your alignment was good to start with. So what I'm going to do now is just show you what I'm going to do is measure everything up and write it all down, and then I know that I can put it all back in the same place, because the thing is, you've got brackets on there, that you've got the two bolts that go through the outriggers, which is fine, but you've got the brackets on the front which have slots, so it's all positionable, and also there's shims as well on the brackets on the end of the outriggers. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so these are the brackets down here, the brackets that align the bulkhead. You can see they bolt up under the bulkhead under here, and then they bolt to the chassis here. And then I don't know about the later models, earlier models, but there's a plate. Where's my finger? There. There's a plate which is held into the chassis, which is the mounting plate for the studs. So I could leave that in, but I want to make sure I get paint behind it, so I'm not going to leave that in. I'm going to take some measurements and make sure I get the bulkhead back in the right place. So what I'm going to do is measure from here, from this bracket on the chassis here, forward to this corner here where the edging strip goes, and I'm also going to measure to this corner here where the edging strip goes. I'll do that on both sides, and just make sure that I get it back in exactly the same position. The other thing I've done is just grab the tape measure on it. Have a little look at the chassis while I'm just fumbling with the tape measure. When you measure the lower section, obviously the tape measure falls flat like this, so it's straight on. When you come up at an angle, you can see you get the gap. So make sure you're either holding it flat and twisting it up, or you're holding it like that. Make sure you get it dead right. 3mm out up here makes all the difference. So I'm going to go and take these measurements and write them down, and then I'll show you what I've done. Okay, so here is my Land Rover Bible. This is the book with all the nuts and bolts for the engine all written down. And so what we've got here, you can see on the right hand side, we've got 1188 to the top and 996 to the bottom. And on the left hand side, we've got 1182 on the top and 994 on the bottom. So they're not quite the same, but that could be because this bracket here is out. Okay, so the other thing we need to do is measure the height of the bulkhead in relation to the chassis as well. Now this outrigger is angled on the bottom edge, so what we need to do is make sure wherever we measure from, We measure from the extreme outside edge, and then we know we're going to get repeat every time. Now obviously, you know, plus minus half a millimetre is not going to matter, so we switch on our vernier caliper, or digital vernier, and zero it. Every time you switch one of these things on, zero it, okay? Now, what I'm going to do now is measure this rule, which I'm going to use to measure it. Sorry, I should have shown you first. That's what I'm going to do, is use this to measure how much lower the bulkhead is here than the actual outrigger. So measure the rule, zero the digital caliper. Yeah, I'm moving. When I zero, I'm moving because I'm trying to do this in front of the camera. So there we go. So that's zeroed there. And now what I can do is hold this rule against the edge of the outrigger, and then I can measure up. What I'm doing is using it like this. Use the rule, okay, and then you can measure up, and that will give you the measurement from there to there, which is the same as there to there or there to there. Okay, so basically, there we go. It's nice and square. Now get down, Jess. And I can see that's get down, Jess. There we go, 4.6 millimetres I've got there. Okay then, it's Saturday morning now, and we're out here with Jess again. You can see she's loving it. We've got the bulkhead off. Just lifted it up with some sort of thin rope. I wasn't sure how heavy it's going to be. I didn't want to go dropping it or anything, so but we can see it's in pretty good nick. I'll show you again those welded areas. It's a real shame what they've done. You can see under here all these welds here where it's all been badly welded up. It must have been like a sort of rework at the factory wherever these things are made, but you can see here all these awful plug welds. It looks like the panels weren't together properly, because you can see the spot welds are really deep. So they've obviously didn't take, and they've obviously decided to plug weld it rather than scrap it, and I've ended up with it. I'm sure I'm not the only one. You can see all the way across there, and then all of a sudden they end, and then it just becomes spot welds. I also want to show you another little tip that newer Land Rover owners might not know. If you want, this is another good tip as well. Chinese takeaway boxes, keep them, put them in the dishwasher, and then you can put all your bits and pieces. You can see I've got on there bulkhead fittings, pedal boxes, that one there steering column, this one here right hand front wing. So everything you've got in boxes, and you know this one here that I haven't got a lid yet, but that's basically doors, except for the washer jet. These square nylon plugs, they're self-tapping. If you want to do any bodywork or paintwork, obviously they need to come out, and they can prove a little difficult. What I've sussed out, if you get a 7/16 or an 11mm spanner, when you look at them, you can see here that they've got two corners. That's just a mark on there. Two corners have got a slit in them. So if you get the spanner and put it on and just turn it 45 degrees diagonal to the split, so you turn it like that, okay, then you can literally just push them out like so. You can see that's how easy they come out. And basically what you're doing is closing it up. Here's one here. I can see the splits are top left, so just turn the spanner. I doubt if I'll be able to do this one because I can't get my hand behind it. I've obviously got to do it single-handedly, but it makes them really easy to get out. Let's try some underneath. So go into there, here we go, and I turn the spanner 45 degrees and just push it out like so. There we go, it's coming. So there we are, that's how easy it is. This one, unfortunately, from the factory, it must have been a Friday afternoon when I first got it. All these holes, you can see how mashed up they are. They managed to get the screws down the side of the nylon plugs, which was great. So there we are, that's Jess having a look at the chassis and everything now. Next job now, I need to get the fuel lines off and get the electrics out of the chassis if I can. The loom, obviously it's going to have to come out from the back because you've got all that wiring there. There's no way that's going to pull through. But at the front you've just got this little bit here, so what I'm thinking is tape all this up, wrap it in a bag and tape it all up, and then see if I can pull it through with a piece of string attached to it, and then basically then pull the string back through with a piece of MIG wire. I'm just going to have the MIG wire left in there tied off at the ends, and then when I come to clean the chassis and paint it and everything, I won't have the wiring in there. So that's something I'm going to try. If it snags up, I'll just pull it back through and leave it in there. I remember doing my last one, it was a nightmare getting the wiring out. So there we go. Obviously TD5 Puma fuel filter mounting here, that's got to obviously come off, and I'm going to get a relocation to mount that higher up. I wish they'd put it on the inside of the chassis rail instead of the outside. It's bloody stupid having it there. But there are some stupid designs on this. Oh, and the other thing is the fuel tank. If you're not familiar with the Puma TD5, there's the fuel tank there, stood up on end. This is that's the bottom, and yeah, it's not easy to get out at all. Not easy at all to get out. It sits on a plate. There's the plate, and yeah, you take the plate off and it comes out through the bottom, but it's got foam. You can see where the foam was on the chassis there. Just, where's my finger? Here. And yeah, it's not good. Oh, the other thing that annoys me intensely about the modern Defenders is the rear cross member is never straight. You can see, I don't know if you can see it here, but this angle here. Let's get this door open. There we go. This angle here. This angle here is what the body bolts to. And if you look along it, you can see that it's not straight. You can see the angle straight, but the rear cross member bows in at the ends, and they all do it the later ones. So I might see if I can address that by doing some cutting. You know, cut it here, and then pull it out and sort of straighten it up a bit. It just really annoys me how when the body's on, this is tucked away inside. And just one of those little pet hates. But we can see down here all the rust and everything that's starting. You know, I know it's nothing much, it's just surface rust, but once it gets a hold, that's it. So there we go, guys. Right, here we are back again, and this will be it now. So basically now all the wiring's gone. As you can see, I managed to pull some MIG wire through, and basically done. And I've just tied a loop, a nylon loop onto the end of it, so that it can't get lost. And on this end, I've just tied it to the eyelet there. Fuel lines are gone, they're up in the garage roof now, so left them in one piece. For some reason the connectors didn't want to come off of the fuel filter. I'm guessing they may put high security clips on it to stop thieves nicking your fuel or something, but they just cut the pipes anyway, wouldn't they, if they wanted to. So yeah, so now the real work begins. I've got to make up a frame now to integrate this onto my rotisserie, and then I've got to flip the chassis around and clean it and work to my heart's content, and roll it in and out the garage and everything. So so there we go, that's what your Puma chassis looks like when it's stripped. And you can see there the differences, I guess, if you know what you're looking at with these chassis. I'm thinking this is probably the same as a TD5, but you can see the back end here, there's like I said, a lot of surface rust, lots to deal with. And as I said, I don't know if you can, I'll try and show you again in that shot, you can see that beam is straight, this beam here that the body bolts to, but the actual cross member is bowed where they weld it. Same years ago, they used to be dead straight, but obviously they couldn't care less now, so that's how they do it. So there we go. So we'll call that a day for this one. So I guess the next video will be productive. And if you're wondering why I'm not rebuilding the engine yet, the engine is still sat there on its stand. Reason being, three reasons. One is it's bloody cold, and I don't like building engines when it's cold. Two, basically I don't want the engine in here built up while I'm grinding and welding and stuff like that, because it gets everywhere and I don't really want that to happen. So I'd rather have it all broken down before it's all washed and clean, and then make sure it's all washed and clean. And thirdly, and this is a biggie that you should always remember, if you're working on chassis and suspension components and stuff, there's a good chance you could contaminate your tools. You get, I mean, I'll look at my sockets here. You can see, I mean, this socket here, it's got some grub and crud in it, you know. So what we need to do is get all the tools in the washer, in the wash tank, wash them all off, make sure they're all spotless before we do any engine work at all. And I'm also considering stripping the transfer box and getting the gears super finished, which will make it a lot smoother, makes it a bit stronger. My concern is whenever I drain the oil out of the transfer box, it always comes out black. The oil in the gearbox is lovely, the diff's lovely, but for some reason the transfer box always comes out black. So I may get that super finish, we'll see. So if I do, I'll let you know. I'll show you in the video how it works. So there we go. So I'm going to start taking some brackets and stuff off now, and then we can get this out on the driveway outside, get the Mustang put away, ready for the storm to hit tomorrow. So looking forward to that. Great. See you all soon, guys. Bye for now.